fusion of male and female gametes forms zygote, which is a normal natural process. And zygote during development give rise to two types of cells, that are somatic cells and germ cells. Germ cells only take part in reproduction. Germ cells are male and female cells, male and female reproductive cells, and they are useful in formation of new organism by the fusion of the gametes, while rest of all the body parts are made up of somatic cells. That's why whenever there is a change in body in our lifetime or in animals lifetime, these changes which are acquired by the body occurs only in somatic cells. That's why the acquired changes cannot be transmitted to the offsprings, because offsprings get the information or the genetic code from the male and female gametes, which are made up of germ cells. Weismann performed experiments on mice, and he strongly opposed and rejected Lamarckian's theory on the basis of his experiments. He removed tails of mice for repeated generations, but tails always appeared in every new generation in full length because it is made up of somatic cells, and if you cut it, it will regenerate in the next generation. Now, the Darwin's theory of natural selection. Darwin wrote a book, namely The Origin of Species, and in his book, he gave a theory of organic evolution, which was based upon natural selection, therefore, also called as the theory of natural selection. The important features of his theory are these, but these features are interrelated to each other. The first feature is over reproduction. To understand this, we will go through these points, that all organisms are very fertile in nature. They give rise to much higher number of offspring that can possibly survive in their habitat. For example, a single codfish lays 5 to 7 million eggs in a single breeding season. Likewise, a housefly lays about 120 eggs 6 times in every summer. This is a lot of eggs. A starfish produces a million eggs in a year. A rabbit breeds at age of 6 months, giving 6 young ones in a litter and 4 litters in a year. Even the slowest breeder, which is elephant, it produces about 6 offsprings in its lifetime of 100 years. In such high rates of reproduction, if these high rates of reproduction were to continue even for a few generations, then a single species could occupy almost entire area of the habitat with no space, no food for any other species. But we observe that the total number of each species remains within limits. Why? Because of struggle for existence. And what is struggle for existence? The struggle for existence depends mainly on the requirement of food, space, and other life necessities. This struggle for existence can be categorized into intraspecific struggle, interspecific struggle, and environmental struggle. Intraspecific struggle is a competition or struggle between individuals of the same species which have similar needs, while interspecific struggle is between members of different species. And environmental struggle, um species if struggle against the extreme forces of the nature, like drought, like rain, cold, or lightning. Those members of a species which passed all three struggles and becomes an adult may be able to reproduce after passing all these three kinds of struggles. Variations and heredity, the another feature of Darwin's theory. Darwin said that individuals of a population shows variations in use of available natural resources, and no two offsprings of the same parents are exactly alike. We can also observe that in human beings as well. So the main difference between the Lamarck and Darwin's theory of variations and heredity was that Lamarck believed that the whole population increased their neck and survived through the generations and elongated their necks, while Darwin believes that the individual of a same population may show variations in use of natural resources and they cannot be alike. So these variations which are natural, out of these organisms with variation, those who adapt to survive are preferred by nature for further generation. That was the point raised by Darwin. Then natural selection, which I have discussed in the last slide, how nature selects, how nature prefers the animals, or we can name it survival of the fittest as given by Darwin. This phenomena is the core of the Darwin's theory. This idea of natural selection or survival of the fittest came to Darwin from artificial selection used for crop plants and domestic animals, which was widely used at that time also. Environment selects the populations whose members are better adapted to the environment or fit for survival, just like humans do in artificial selection for crop plants or domestic animals. Humans select those domestic animals which are more fit or who can survive very easily. They select to breed them and left the weaker ones. Similarly, the nature also do the preference or selection of the fittest organisms for the future generations, while those who lack ability to cope with environmental changes will become less in numbers or even extinct by the nature. The fifth feature of Darwin's theory is formation of new species. Darwin said evolution proceeds gradually or slowly, and during this process animal shows variations, and these variations can be in one direction and in others in some other direction, and because of these differences between the variations, gradually they can gradually produce new species. This is also called as origin of the species, new species. But just like Lamarck, there were few objections to Darwin's theory as well. That are, Darwin's not clearly differentiate between heritable and non-heritable variations. Then Darwin emphasized the role of minor variations, but not the mutations, which really play an important role in evolution. Then Darwin didn't explain the causes of variations, no explanation for neutral variations, which exist generation after generation without any useful or harmful effects. He didn't explain the presence of vestigial organs as well. Darwin's theory deals only with preservation of variations, but not with the origin of variations. He explained the survival of fittest but not the arrival of fittest. Now, De Vries was the scientist who discovered Mendel's work. He proposed the mutation theory. He realized and explained role of mutation in evolution. According to him, new species originate discontinuously and non-gradually. What are mutations? Mutations are sudden heritable changes. It can occur in any gene and can transfer to the other coming generation. Environmental variations are continuous while mutational variations are discontinuous. Mutation causes change in nature of germ cells, and these permanent changes occur spontaneously or suddenly out of internal conditions and are not necessarily adaptive to nature. So, majority of these mutations get destroyed because they don't get adaptive to the nature. Only those mutations which are adaptive can survive in nature. So we can conclude this in these words that mutations are the source of variability on which natural selection acts. So these are the points which were given by De Vries, very important points because he explained the mutation and the link between the mutation and evolution.